Hi everyone, welcome to another video, and in today's video we're going to be going through the topic of population. So in this topic we'll be looking at the dynamics, the structure, and the overall impact of different population trends on different groups of people in society as a whole. Before we get into the video, I just want to go through some key terminology that you need to know for your exams, as they tend to ask these a lot. So if you know them word by word, then you should be able to snap easy marks. So the first definition you need to know is overpopulation. And this can be defined as when there are too many people relative to the resources available. And underpopulation is actually basically the opposite. So when there is too many resources relative to the people living in the area. Okay, so the next definition is birth rate, and this is the number of births in a population per 1,000 per year. Keep in mind that this per 1,000 per year is really important that you state that in your definition, or else you won't get the mark. And the death rate is the same, but in place of births you would write deaths. So the number of deaths in a population, and again you need to write per 1,000 per year. All right. And population explosion can be defined as the post World War II period where the population increased exponentially. Okay, so those are all the definitions that you need to know for this part of the video, and we'll go through some more definitions later in this video. So you need to know the general population trend. You don't have to draw it, but you just need to know the main idea and reasons for why the population trend is the way it is. So as you can see, at the start of time of like 0 AD, the population increased but then remained flat until the 20th century. So that's here. And after this point, as you can see, the population starts to rapidly increase. And the reason for this is because there was like a development in medicine. So that means that more people were surviving for longer and could get access to better healthcare and medication. And also another reason is due to increased food security. So this means that people were less likely to obtain diseases from insecure foods such as salmonella, etc. So those are the main two reasons why the population increased exponentially in the 20th century. So another thing that links in with this is the demographic transition model. And basically this just complements the population, this graph here, this population trend graph, and shows how the birth rate and the death rate have an effect on the total population. So in stage 1, as you can see, the birth rates and death rates are quite high. And reasons for this is because there is a lack of contraception and family planning. So this allowed more children to be born, as well as poor healthcare. So people were more likely to contract diseases. So in the second stage of the DTM, birth rates still remained high, as you can see from this line, this red line here. However, you can see that the death rate started to decrease by a lot, and this maybe because there was more access to healthcare diets, more access to healthcare, sorry, and improved diets. All right. And then in stage 3, you can see that the death rate starts to flatten out. And at this point, the birth rate also starts to decrease. And this is because there is increased education about family planning. And also there was more birth control. Okay, so then these two in stage 4 and 5, they're quite similar, so I'll just combine them into one. You can see that the birth rate and death rate start to flatten, and the reason for the birth rate flattening is because women are educated, so they're more likely to have careers, and therefore they'll have children at a later age. And then the death rate still remains low, and it keeps fluctuating, and then it'll remain like that until the end of the DTM in stage 5. Okay, so that's all for the DTM, and now we're going to move to the causes and implications of both over and underpopulation. So the causes of underpopulation are extreme climate, because like humans may not be able to survive in like harsh climates, so they will have to move to areas that are more habitable and accessible to resources like water and fossil fuels, etc. There also may be high net immigration. Now we'll go into immigration in more detail later in this video, but for now, immigration is when people migrate out of an area or a country. So another cause might be war, so people might take refuge and leave the area in order to seek for security. There may also be a lack of jobs in the area, which makes the area unattractive, so people may move. And finally, there may be a lack of resources. So this could be anything from food to healthcare to water. So this is also unattractive to migrants and people, so they would likely emigrate out of the area. So now we're going to be looking at the impacts of underpopulation. So some impacts are that there are high taxes, and this is because there are less people living in a given area, so the government would have to raise the taxes in order to provide government services such as healthcare and education. Resources may also be underused, so this may lead to the wastage of those resources. And then there may be a shortage of workers. So this could lead to businesses shutting down because they are not productive in selling their goods and services. There also may be fewer customers for businesses, which also leads to them being shut down. And finally, there's low levels of exports, and this can have an harmful impact on the wealth in the area, and this could lead to rising issues related to wealth inequality. So the causes of overpopulation. So one is the lack of contraception, and as I said earlier, this could lead to more children being born, which therefore increases the population by a lot. The next thing is early marriage, and this is because when women marry earlier, they are likely to be more fertile and more likely to have more children, which could lead to an increase in population. Another cause is that families may see children as economic assets. So this means that they want their children to work on farms, etc. So want children to earn income. So this is because they want the children to be able to provide for the family because they may not be as wealthy. So the next factor is culture. And this is because cultural practices may require families to have a lot of children, and it can also be to do with religion as well. So this can obviously lead to an increase in population and therefore increases the risk of overpopulation. And finally, there may be a lack of education, and this is especially for the women, because if there's a lack of education, then women may not pursue tertiary careers and education, and therefore they're likely to have children at a younger age. So now we're going to be looking at the impacts of overpopulation, and this could lead to unemployment. And the reason for this is because there is high job competition in overpopulated areas. So a lot of the high proportion of the population may be jobless and therefore may live in poverty. There also may be food and water shortages. And this can have like a harmful impact on the productivity of the economy because people may start to contract diseases if they are dehydrated and not eating ample food. So this can have like a great knock-on effect. There also may be higher crime rates due to increased poverty. So people may be desperate for more money or income. And this also causes pollution levels to increase. And this is because there is more people, so there's more economic productivity, there's more cars on the road, which actually leads to my next impact, which is traffic congestion. And this is because there is a lot of people that need cars to move around the area, like the urban area that is overpopulated. So this could cause congestion and traffic jams, etc. Okay, so now we're gonna move on to population change, and now we're gonna go through some more key terms that you need to know. So the first one is life expectancy, and this is the average age someone is expected to live at the time they are born. All right. So the next thing you need to know is natural increase, and this is when birth rates exceeds death rates. A natural decrease is quite literally the opposite. So when death rates exceed birth rates. And the fertility rate is the average amount of children a woman has per 1,000 population per year. And again, the per 1,000 population per year is important to include in your definition, or else you won't get the mark. So the total fertility rate is the amount of children a woman is expected to have in their lifetime. All right. And then finally, the infant mortality rate. This is the number of infants that die before the age of 1 in a population per 1,000 per year. Okay, so these are all the definitions here, and it's important again that you memorize these word for word, as they do come up a lot in exams, and it's an easy way to get marks. So now we're going to be looking at the factors affecting population change. And the first one is the level of education. Because if education increases, then women are more likely to have careers, so this will decrease the birth rate. So it may cause a natural decrease in the population. Another factor is religion. And this could impact population change because religion might require certain practices by families. And me saying that means by like having more children or having less children. And this could impact the population change in an area or a country. The next thing is healthcare. So this relates to the availability of medicine and contraception in a country. So yeah. And the next thing is the cost of raising children. So in a country, if the costs of living are quite high, then couples may be less likely to have children, and therefore this could cause a net decrease in the population. And the last thing is disease/war. So this could impact how many children a woman might have, depending on the local political and health issues. All right. So the next things you need to know are population policies. You don't need to know anything in depth about these. You just need to know what they are. So pro-natalist policies are government policies that aim to encourage population growth through the use of incentives. And anti-natalist policies are literally the opposite. So these are government policies that aim to discourage population growth by enforcing laws or penalties. Okay, so that's all for population policies, and now I'm going to move on to migration. So there are 4 types of migration that you need to know. So voluntary is when one chooses to migrate to another area. And this may be because maybe they got offered a job in that area, so they would want to migrate to that area so that they can work and earn income. Involuntary migration is when people are forced to migrate out of an area. And this could be due to natural disasters that may happen, like a landslide or an earthquake or a hurricane. And it can also be due to political issues such as civil unrest and instability. And you also need to know the difference between internal and external migration. So internal migration is migration within a country, and external/international migration is migration across international borders. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the push and pull factors. So push factors are what pushes people out of the place of origin where they were originally staying. So such push factors could be natural disasters, as we talked about earlier, because people may lose their homes, so they'll be forced to migrate out of the area. The next thing is lack of jobs, and this is because people may not be able to earn income if they don't have jobs, so they pushes them out of the place of origin to find a job in another area. The next thing could be political/civil unrest, and this may be because there may be discriminatory policies against people of certain ethnic groups or races, which forces them out of the area. The next thing is an extreme climate, and this is because they may be living in areas which are not habitable for humans to live in, so it forces them out of the area. And the last thing is high crime. So this can lead to less safer societies, and it can cause people to migrate out of the area. So pull factors are factors that attract migrants to the destination of origin. So one thing could be higher wages, because they would want to earn more income so they can spend it on more luxury and disposable goods. The next thing is entertainment. And another pull factor is the provision of public services. And this allows migrants to have better access to healthcare, education, etc. And there may be more job opportunities in the destination, which again allows the migrants to earn income. And there also may be a lack of corruption in the place of destination, so there is more security and less political instability. So there are a variety of impacts that you need to know, and you need to know the impacts on the place of origin, the place of destination, and the impacts on the migrants themselves. So for the places of origin, some impacts are this less pressure on public services, and this is good because it just generally alleviates the pressure on the healthcare and education. So there's more of that to provide for more people. The next thing is that there may be a low workforce, and this is a negative impact because it could decrease the economic productivity in the country. And then we're going to go back to another positive impact. So this is income via remittances. And we need to know what remittances are. Is that they are basically income that comes from abroad. So for example, remittances may be received in Mexico from migrants in the US. So that's what they are. And also there may be an aging population, and this is because the youth population will have probably migrated to a different area in order to work and earn income. So this could lead to the population in the origin starting to age. And the last thing is low unemployment, and this is because there is less job competition, so there's a wider variety and availability of jobs for people to take on, so this reduces the unemployment rates. So now we're going to be looking at the impact on the destination, and then one impact could be cultural diversity, and this is because there may be different ethnic or cultural groups moving into a country, and this therefore increases cultural exchange, etc. And another positive impact is a skilled workforce, because people from other areas may be able to migrate to the destination and be able to apply their skills to different jobs, which could increase the economic productivity. However, some negative impacts include pressure on public services. And this is because there is an increase in population in destination. So this places a burden on healthcare, education, and a variety of different public services. And the next thing is racial tension. And this is because those natives already living in the place of destination may think against letting migrants erode their culture and their identity. So this could cause tension between different ethnic groups. And the last thing is overcrowding, which is also negative, because it just in general decreases the vibe of the atmosphere in the destination and can therefore harm the native people like mentally and psychologically. Okay, so now we're going to be looking at the impacts on the migrants themselves. So a negative impact to start with is cultural assimilation. And this is because migrants may find it difficult to assimilate into a society that's different from what they're used to back home. Another impact is that migrants could be exploited by the local people. And then another disadvantage is a language barrier because migrants may speak a different language back home compared to the language in their place of destination. Another impact is that it could increase the quality of life for the migrants because they're moving to an area that's more wealthy and where they can take part in different charity groups and also work. So they'll be able to experience a better quality of life. And also they might be able to acquire new skills. And this also interlinks with cultural diversity and the impacts of the place of destination because they may be able to there will be an increase in cultural exchange between the different groups of people, so they'll be able to acquire skills from one another. Okay, so next we're going to look at population structure and more specifically population pyramids. So for these population pyramids, all you need to know are the different characteristics for depending on the income of each country. So for LDEDCs, that's less economically developed country, you would see that they would have a wider base right here. And this is due to the high birth rate as a result of a lack of contraception. And you can slowly see it narrowing as you reach the economically active population, which is this middle part. And you can see that the it's really narrow at the top where there is an aging population, which could suggest that there's a poor provision of healthcare. So for MEDCs, it's quite different actually. So there's a larger bulk of an economically active population here in the middle, and the aging population still decreases and becomes really narrow towards the top. However, you would notice that it's higher than in LEDCs, and this due to the better provision of healthcare and medicine and increased sanitation. And finally, this is for an aging population society. So as you can see, there is a narrower base of the youth population, but a really wide base of the economically active, and also a relatively wide base of the aging population compared to the other population pyramids. Okay, so now we're going to have a look at the case studies and what you need to know for each case study. So you need to know a case study of an overpopulated country, and for that you need to know 3 causes and 3 effects that has on that country. You also need to know an underpopulated country, and you need to know the same, so 3 causes and 3 effects. You also need to know a case study for high population growth, and you also need to know 3 causes, 3 effects. And it's the same for population decline, so you need to know 3 causes, 3 effects. You also need to know an example of an international migration. So you need to know 3 push factors, 3 pull factors, 3 effects on the country of origin, 3 effects on the country of destination, and 3 effects on the migrants themselves. And you also need to know a case study for a high dependent population. So you need to know the 3 causes and 3 effects of it. And you also need to know a densely populated country, so the 3 causes and 3 effects of it. And the same goes for the sparsely populated country, so 3 causes, 3 effects. You also need to know an example of a pro-natalist policy that's implemented in a country. So you need to know 3 methods of enforcement or incentives that are used to promote that policy. And you also need to know the same for an anti-natalist policy. So you need to know 3 laws that implement that policy, and also penalties or incentives that discourage that population growth. Anyways, that's all for population, and I hope you found this video useful. See you in the next video.